You stand in a dimly lit hallway, staring at a tiny piece of paper that will determine whether you eat tonight. It is a contract for $1,200, $600 to show, $600 if you somehow win. Your bank account sits at exactly $0, and your left shin is already purple from last week's sparring session. You sign your name, knowing that after paying your trainer, your corner, and your gym fees, you will actually lose money on this fight. Welcome to the reality of professional combat sports. A world where the entry price is complete financial ruin. Most people see the lights, the gold belts, and the luxury cars. But they never see the cold, unforgiving math underneath. Because before you can ever dream of making a single million, you have to survive years of working for less than minimum wage. The system is designed to break you, to force you into desperation until you are willing to take any deal just to stay alive. You sleep on a foam mattress in the back of the gym, drinking instant coffee to blunt the feeling of hunger. Your body is your only capital. And every single day, you are spending it without a guarantee of a return. You spend 6 hours a day getting smashed by heavyweight sparring partners, taking micro-concussions that don't bleed on the outside, but slowly chip away at your neurological clock. When your gloves come off, you wash towels in the gym laundry room at midnight just to waive your monthly membership fees. You buy expired eggs and frozen ground beef in bulk, calculating down to the exact cent how many calories you need to survive another 8-week camp. Your friends from high school are starting corporate careers, buying houses, and building 401ks, while you are borrowing $20 from your younger sister just to pay for a bus pass to training. Then comes the call, a short notice opportunity on the preliminary card of a major event. They offer you $3,000. But you have to cut 20 pounds in less than 48 hours. You sit in a steaming bath, wrapped in towels, watching your heart rate spike as your organs desperately fight for water. Your skin turns pale, your vision blurs. And you realize that this isn't just a sport, it is a calculated risk against your own life. You step onto the scale, barely able to speak, and the official nods. The next night you step into the cage, surrounded by blinding lights and thousands of screaming strangers. 15 minutes of raw, unfiltered violence later, you walk back to the locker room with a swollen eye and a broken hand. You open your envelope. $3,000 in cash. Minus taxes, minus management fees, minus medical bills, you clear less than $900 for 3 months of absolute physical torment. And that is when the cold truth finally hits you. Winning fights will never make you rich. To reach the kind of wealth that changes generations, you have to stop thinking like a gladiator and start acting like an owner. Every punch you take is a transaction. And for the first few years, the house is taking 90% of the profits. You watch other fighters spend their tiny paychecks on designer clothes and cheap status symbols, trying to look like champions before they even own a home. You do the opposite, you save every cent, you live like a ghost, and you study the television contracts. You realize that the organization isn't paying you for your skill, they are paying you for the attention you bring to their network. So you change your approach, you begin to speak differently, you create conflict, you make every interview a high-stakes drama. The crowd starts to hate you or love you, but most importantly, they cannot look away. Your paychecks move from thousands to tens of thousands, but the injury list is growing just as fast. Your right knee clicks every time you walk upstairs, your ribs never fully healed from that tournament in Tokyo. And you wake up with a dull headache that never quite leaves. The doctor tells you that your body is aging twice as fast as normal, but you are finally approaching the threshold of real money. You get your first pay-per-view bonus contract. A small percentage for every buy over 300,000 units. This is the trap, because to get that percentage, you have to risk everything on a single night against the most dangerous man in the division. You spend 8 weeks in high-altitude training, paying $20,000 out of your own pocket for elite coaching and recovery specialists. If you lose this fight, your leverage disappears overnight. And you go right back to square one, the night of the fight. The pressure is so heavy it feels like a physical weight pressing down on your chest. You walk through the dark tunnel, the arena roaring like a wounded beast. And you realize that failure is not an option. You step onto the canvas. The cage door locks shut behind you, and the referee gives the signal. 5 rounds of brutal back-and-forth warfare. Blood on the canvas, shattered bones, and pure adrenaline carrying you through the agony. When the judge raises your hand, you don't feel joy. You feel a cold, overwhelming sense of relief. The next morning, you look at the pay stub. $2 million. For the first time in your life, you are financially secure. But when you look in the mirror, you barely recognize the person staring back. Your face is bruised, your knuckles are swollen to twice their size, and your body feels 80 years old. This is the pivotal moment where 99% of fighters make their fatal mistake. They think the hard part is over, so they buy the mansion, the sports cars, and the luxury watches. trapping themselves in a lifestyle that forces them to keep fighting forever. They become slaves to the very sport that made them, fighting long past their prime just to pay for their overhead. You decide to play a different game. A much colder, far more lucrative game. You realize that $2 million is just leverage, fuel for a machine that runs without you having to take another punch. You refuse the traditional sponsorship deals. You decline the cheap endorsement checks, and you demand equity instead. When a brand wants your name, you don't take a flat fee, you demand 20% of the company. You start your own spirit brand, leveraging your fame and your post-fight interviews to drive millions of dollars in free publicity. Every time you step in front of a microphone, you aren't just selling a fight anymore. You are selling a global consumer enterprise. The fight world thinks you have lost your focus. The promoters complain that you are becoming impossible to manage, but the numbers don't lie. Your business generates $50 million in its second year, far more than any fight purse in combat sports history. Now, when you walk into contract negotiations with the promotion, the dynamic has completely flipped. You don't need their money. And that makes you the most dangerous person in the room. They need your power to sell their pay-per-views. And you know exactly what that leverage is worth. You demand a piece of the entire event. Ticket sales, concessions, international broadcast rights, and a massive percentage of digital buys. The executives try to play hardball. They threaten to strip your title. They try to bench you for a year to starve you out. They don't realize that while you sit on the sidelines, your private businesses are generating millions of dollars a month in passive income. You can wait forever, but their broadcast partners cannot. Eventually, the phone rings. And they give you everything you asked for. Your next fight purse isn't just a record. It is a total restructuring of how professional athletes are paid in combat sports. $80 million for 25 minutes of work, or rather, $80 million for 15 years of calculated physical sacrifice and economic strategy. Instead of keeping all that capital in low-yield bank accounts, you start doing what real billionaires do with their money. You launch your own venture capital firm, buying major stakes in high-growth tech startups, sports media networks, and global commercial real estate. You buy the distribution pipelines, the production studios, and the apparel lines that used to sponsor you for pennies. You build a private, state-of-the-art recovery facility in your hometown, equipped with hyperbaric chambers, cryotherapy, and full medical teams, keeping your physical engine running just long enough to execute your final monetary plays. You aren't just competing with other fighters anymore. You are competing with Wall Street hedge funds and global media moguls. You step into the octagon for what you know will be one of your final appearances. The fight itself feels almost surreal. The violent culmination of a journey that started on a dirty mat in a forgotten gym. You take damage, because at this level everyone hits like a sledgehammer. But your mind remains completely detached from the pain. You are no longer just a fighter. You are an empire in fight shorts. You win by decision, walking away with your belt, your health barely intact, and a paycheck that permanently alters your family line. 2 years later, you sell your majority stake in your beverage company for over $150 million. Your total net worth crosses $260 million, making you one of the wealthiest athletes in the history of human combat. You sit in the backyard of your private estate, looking out over the water in complete, unbroken silence. You have all the money anyone could ever spend, absolute freedom, and a legacy that will outlive you. Then you try to pour yourself a cup of coffee, and your hands begin to tremble. A dull, persistent ache throbs behind your eyes. A quiet reminder of the hundreds of heavy blows you absorbed to build this kingdom. You look at your medical files, stacked neatly on your mahogany desk alongside tax returns and private equity audits. The doctors use long, complex words like early-stage CTE, chronic joint degeneration, and irreversible spinal compression. You have millions in liquidity, but no amount of capital can buy back the quiet, painless nights of your early 20s. You realize that the trade was real. Every single dollar in your bank account was bought with a piece of your future physical health. The system didn't give you $260 million. You traded your youth, your nervous system, and your peace of mind for it. Was it worth it? To start from absolute zero and conquer a world designed to consume you whole? Only you know the answer, as you sit alone in the mansion, listening to the quiet,